Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, what do you call a sandworm that refuses to breach the surface? Shy halud. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Dune Imperium Uprising from Direwolf.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Dune Imperium Uprising from Direwolf, up to 4 players take on the roles of various factions in the Dune universe as they attempt to dominate the planet Arrakis and control the flow of spice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have played Dune Imperium, you know how to play this game. There's just a few other little rules. I'm not going to go into all of the rules from Dune Imperium. I'm going to kind of take it for granted that maybe you've seen some playthroughs on that or some rules overviews on that. You can also check out our review that we did a few years ago when Dune Imperium first came out. The games are very similar. There are just a few small but critical changes to the game here that you do need to know. Now, the game board is very similar to Dune Imperium's game board. You have the 4 faction tracks. You have the Fremen, the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild, and the Emperor. But, you have Dune spaces, you kind of have the Landsrod spaces, etc., etc. So you've got all of these basic ideas on the board. But the spaces themselves, very many of them are quite different. Some of the other spaces do similar things, but maybe they're not quite as powerful as in the first game, or more powerful, or maybe some different things altogether. So first of all, one of the big differences you've got between this game and the original Dune Imperium is spies. Now, spies are these little kind of cylinders that you can place on the board in different places. You'll notice that a lot of the different spaces you can go to are connected by little outposts. Well, you place these spies in the outposts. Now, over the course of the game, you're going to be placing these spies, and they will grant you certain abilities. For instance, if there is a player in a spot that you have a spy connected to in an outpost, you can go to that spot. Now, normally, you can't go to the same spot anyone else is already in, but you can if you have a spy there. I do believe you have to recall the spy in order to do that. Now, you can also recall a spy if you place one of your agents in a space with that spy. You can recall the spy, and if you do that, you get to draw another card. There are many cards and game effects that say in order to do something, in order to pay for something or get some kind of an effect, you must withdraw a spy. And also, too, some cards that you play will have the spy icon. If it has a spy icon, that means you can send an agent to anywhere on the board where you have a spy. Now, another big change here is you have worms. And I don't mean you personally, I mean there are worms in the game. And what I mean by that is there are times where you'll be able to add worms, sandworms, to combat. And you have minis. You also have little wooden worms here. And essentially, how it works is there are a number of spaces, there are cards that will allow you to bring worms. But the caveat is, before you can bring a worm, you have to have a hook in your garrison. If you have a hook in your garrison, then that means you're clear to have worms join the combat. Now, when you play a card or gain the advantage of a worm, that worm goes immediately into the combat. It does not go to your garrison. It never goes to your garrison. It goes to your to the combat area. Now, worms themselves increase your combat value by 3. Okay, so your regular units, they're worth 2. Any sword you play are worth 1, but the worms bring 3, so they can make you much more powerful in combat. But what's more than that is when you win a reward, if you had a worm in that battle, you can double the reward. You can actually, whatever it is, even if it's victory points, you get double that reward wherever you end up in the combat. So it's really good to have worms in there just for what they can give you as a result of combat. Now, there is a caveat with the worms. Now, some of the locations you fight over, of course, are on the board on Arrakis, and they have a shield wall protecting them. Of course, we know about the shield wall from the book Dune, and some actions on the board, some icons on cards, some things will allow a player, if they want, to destroy the shield wall. If you choose to destroy the shield wall, now if you fight battles in those sections, you can go ahead and you can bring in the sandworms. And it's usually those locations and their conflict cards that will have higher stakes. Now, also, too, at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get an objective card. Now, this is kind of different icons that you're going to have. Well, the different conflict cards will have, some of them will have icons that are similar to ones you hold. Now, if ever you win a battle and you get that conflict card, if its icon matches your objective card, you can flip them both over for a victory point. If you don't have that objective card, if you get another conflict card that's got that same icon, you can flip those over to gain victory points. So this is another way winning conflicts can allow you to gain victory points. Now, Dune Imperium Uprising also contains special rules and components for a 6-player game. This is a team game in which one player on each side is kind of takes the lead for the game. I haven't played this, so I'm not really going to comment on the team version of the game. Now, of course, there's a few other bells and whistles here. You do have some kind of different reserve cards that are always available. There's a lot of cards on the main deck there that have a lot of different and unique and interesting abilities that you didn't get with the core game. And of course, there's a lot new plot cards and things like that that also contribute to the game. Now, there is an optional rule here, and this is called the Chome rules. Now, how this works is Chome, of course, in Dune was a giant company that was owned by all of the great houses, and they're merchants. What you can do is, if you're playing with these rules, there are certain cards you're going to mix into the intrigue deck, into the main deck there, and there's also the Emperor Shaddam IV. If you play him, you have to play with the Chome rules. So what you do here is you have a number of tiles, and you have regular tiles if you're just playing with this base game, and you have some different kind of tiles that you can mix in with them if you are also playing with the Rise of Ix expansion. So what you do is there's a space on the board for 2 Chome contracts that are face up. Well, what you can do is if you go to certain spaces, you can claim one of those contracts. Now, usually the contracts are going to say, if you go to a certain space, you can complete this contract. There's a few other things here and there. So you can go ahead, you can go to those certain spaces, you can claim the contracts, and then you're going to have a number of completed contracts. Some of the cards in the game, some of the intrigue cards, they will trigger off of completed Chome contracts and give you other ways to score or other ways to have special abilities or gain resources. Now, there's a few other little things that happen there, but that's basically the same. Your victory condition is to get to 10 or more victory points, or whoever gets the most victory points within by the time somebody gets to 10. So whoever gets the most points wins. Dune Imperium Uprising. So when they first announced Dune Imperium Uprising a few months ago, I remember thinking to myself, no, wait a second, what is this? Is this a new expansion? I'm like, well, no, it's not really a new expansion. It's a standalone game. Well, yeah, but it's kind of just like the first game, isn't it? I was like, yeah, it's kind of just like that, but it's also kind of different. And I think Roy Kennedy on the Dice Tower, I actually did watch the video he did covering the differences between the games, and he said it's essentially the first game is the first Dune movie, the second game is the second Dune movie. They incorporate different ideas from both of those films in there. And of course, you've got different characters that reflect that and whatnot. And I should point out too that when you're playing, a solitaire game or a 2-player game, you do have little rival cards that you use instead of the just regular cards. Use these rival cards that kind of give you information about how those rivals will act in certain situations and whatnot. So it's kind of handy to have those as well. So the game here it does feel very similar to the first Dune Imperium. Now, the first Dune Imperium is a fantastic game. I love that game. I got the deluxe edition with all the cool stuff. I really like that game a lot. This game, in playing it, it does feel very, very similar. And of course, I've only played this game now 2-player, which means I have been using the rival, and I have been using. I use the app. You don't have to use the app. It comes with cards that you can use for 1 or 2-player games. For House Hagel, it's just kind of the generic house that's moving around here. But I just tend to use the app. I just prefer to hit the button and see what happens next. I like the fact that you've got the app for that choice. But the game, what it comes down to is, are these new innovations, do they really add enough to make the game fresh and new? And I guess the answer is yes, to an extent. I mean, I'm playing the game, and I got to tell you, I have a lot of fun with some of these new cards and new abilities. And it seems like some of the conflict in this game was always cool because it was always so mean and cutthroat. And here, conflict is even more so with the worms, and not just the combat level they can bring, but also the doubling of abilities, rewards that they bring. That is just massive. The spies are actually really, really cool, because sometimes if you want to make something work, if you want to make a card activate, you need to remove spies. So you got to get spies out on the board. But really, it's fun too to be able to place your agents in the same place as somebody else while you've got those spies there. That's cool. And then the fact that you can bring them back and draw more cards. There's just a lot of cool things here. I think I really like this game. There's that question though. If you've got the first game, do you need this? And the stock answer to that is, do you need any game? I mean, do you need it? Let me say this. I am really glad I've got both of them. And I'm going to play both of them. I can see myself playing both of them. I haven't played this one with any of the expansions, and I'm eager to see how that plays out. But I'm eager to play both of these games in the future. And so what that means to me is they're different enough. Like, I want to keep both of them. They're different enough that I'm glad I have both, and that I will play both in the future. I have no doubt. If your name isn't Rockefeller, do you buy both? Well, my guess is most people watching this probably maybe have the first Dune Imperium game. If you don't, it's a great game. Do you need this one? And I guess the answer is maybe. I mean, that's something you need to decide for yourself. I really like it. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say buy it. I'm going to give it a buy it recommendation. Now, that buy it recommendation is for this game in a vacuum. It's a great game. Buy it. If you've got both of them, that's something you got to figure out. If you've got one of them, rather, and you want to see about buying this other one, that's something you got to think for yourself. Maybe try it before you buy it. I don't know, but you need to give this one a shot if you like the first one, because there's so much good stuff here that you do feel it kind of takes it to the next level. And I'm super excited for the next Dune movie, and I think this is going to be a great companion game for that. So, recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Dune Imperium Uprising: buy it. Well, thank you once again for joining us on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history. I post some of my lectures on there. I would ask you to please check that out. Please subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Also, we'd ask you to leave a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. Now, if you are a fan of the channel and you like the content we bring you here, we would humbly ask you to go ahead and click on the Super Thanks button on this YouTube page and leave a tip. There is that age-old question in the Dune universe: why can't Fremen dance? Because they've got no rhythm. Somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. He wants that point.
I want that point.
He got screwed out of his victory last time.
I spent 6 spice for that.
For that second place?
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because I'm thinking, I'm totally waiting to see, I'm doing the math in my head, I'm waiting to see how many cards you...
6 spice I spent on that victory.